Hello and good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Working Wednesdays broadcast. I am your host, Audra V. Heard. I am serial author. I am serial author and also the owner and chief editor at IBG Publications, where we assist authors in publishing, marketing, and coaching their books. So, welcome to the Working Wednesdays broadcast. For those who might be joining me for the first time tonight, welcome, welcome, welcome. Do me a huge favor, like, share, and tag the video. Get someone on tonight who needs to hear a message of hope and inspiration. So I am very excited to bring my guest on tonight. She is none other than author Frances Dupree. She is the author of the book Marrying Outside of God's Will. And she does a whole lot of other stuff. She's a talk show host as well. And she's an advocate for mental health and some other things she's going to share with us tonight. So thank you so much for joining. Good evening. I see Venus is on with me tonight. Good evening, Venus. Venus, good evening. Whoever else is on with us, just give me a shout out in the comments because it's a little challenging for me to determine who's on live with me. So just give me a shout out in the comments. Say hello, hi, good evening, how are you? And so we're going to go ahead. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to get our guest up tonight. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest. And just before I tell you about her, if you are interested in being a guest on the Working Wednesdays broadcast, you are welcome to visit my website at ibgpublications.com. If you go to the website and you scroll down towards the bottom of the first page, you will see a video for the Working Wednesdays, and then there'll be a button that says to be a guest. Click here. So we welcome authors and business owners who have a blessed story to share with our listeners. Go ahead, visit our website, check us out, see what we're doing. We are also on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up on all of the former Working Wednesdays broadcasts, you can do that at our YouTube channel. And it is IBG Publications as well. So visit us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you can get those alerts when we upload new interviews. So thank you again for joining us tonight. So let's go ahead and get our guest on tonight. Author Frances Dupree is a child of God. She wears many hats. She is a God-fearing woman who is a wife and mother. She is an author and motivational speaker who learned that her true worth is worth telling to save that her truth. Wait, I got mixed up. Her truth, I'm sorry. Her truth is worth telling to save other souls. Through disobedience, she was exposed to many dangers such as depression, poverty, suicidal thoughts and attempts, and physical as well as emotional abuse. God never took his hands off of her life, and I'm grateful for that because she's here with us tonight. Her father, Abba Father, she calls him Abba Father, has blessed her to get out of that situation alive and with a story to tell. So we are so excited to get our guest on tonight. So help me welcome my audience, none other than author Frances Dupree. Good evening, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. How are you? I'm good.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. If you could just take a moment and greet our audience tonight, go ahead and greet the Working Wednesdays audience.
Good evening, Working Wednesday audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and for having me as a guest.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and jump right on in. Let's start by talking about your book. Let's talk about your book. Tell a little bit of your story. What was kind of the backdrop of your book and why you wrote it? Let's talk about why you wrote your book.
So, my book was a God given assignment. My goal has always been to be an attorney. Being an author was something that literally God dropped it in my lap. Towards the end of my previous marriage, I kept saying that I was going to write a book, Marrying Outside of God's Will, but I wasn't exactly sure why. And then I started writing, and no one really knew that I was writing. But I was so angry and so bitter after the divorce, so I had to stop. And then, like, I stopped and started a few times. And I got on the prayer line with two close friends of mine, and the prophet said, you need to stop starting and stopping, like you need to finish the book because there are souls waiting for it, and don't worry about judgment, put everything in there. And he described how the cover was. And so from that day forward, I felt like it was a God-given assignment, and I just started writing.
Wow, wow. I don't think I've heard that on the Work of Wednesdays broadcast that it was an assignment. And writing a book, it is an assignment because number one, when you do it, you knew that from the prophetic word that you got that it was going to touch somebody, it was going to minister to
Mm-hmm.
somebody. Just the title alone, I remember when you and I first met and seeing your title, I was like, oh, I got to get this book because I have married outside of God's will. So it's a strong testament just to read the title as to the content. So, talk a little bit more about your experience of marrying outside of the will of God and what that did for you, and just how it turned. I'm sure I can say it turned my life upside down. So, I don't know what your testament is, but marrying outside of God's will for me, it set me back about 7 years. So, talk about you marrying outside the will of God and how that affected your life.
So the relationship was a 12 and a half year relationship, and it was a 4 year marriage. Before we got married, I prayed, and God told me not to marry him.
Oh wow!
And my thing was the title. I deserve to be a wife, which is true,
Yeah.
but I didn't deserve to be his wife. That was the thing. And
Yes.
I feel like because of my disobedience, I basically opened the door for the enemy to just run rapid in all of our lives, my life, my ex-husband's life, our children's life. Um, my walk at the time was different than his walk with God. So I feel like because I was specifically told no and I did what Francis wanted to do anyways, I
Wow.
just opened the door for so much chaos um, into what was already a toxic relationship. And I feel like it just got 100 times worse.
Mm, wow. Wow. You know, listening to you talking about opening those doors, you open such demonic doors when,
Hmm.
especially if God told you no.
Yeah, I know.
If you got a direct no and you did it anyway, now you're in a realm of disobedience. And
Correct.
disobedience brings in so much fruit of destruction. Like you said,
Hmm.
the enemy is now just running rampant. He's in control. He's now in control of everything. He's in
Hmm.
control of the finances. He's in control of the marriage. He's in control of everything that's connected to you. You now gave the enemy permission to just have his way with it all. So,
Right.
and I like your transparency, going in the gate saying God absolutely told you no. So how did you get to the point where you were just like, okay, I disobeyed God? How long did it take for you? You said the marriage lasted 4 years. So how long did it take for you to come to terms with I disobeyed God?
It got to the point where I wanted to commit suicide than to have to deal with the marriage.
Wow.
Like towards the end, I would drop the kids off at school, cry on my way to work, get to work, wash my face, cry on my way home, hurry up and run in the house and wash my face so my kids wouldn't see me crying.
Mm,
And the thing was, at the time, I had 8 sons, and it's like, okay, if anything happens to me, who's going to take care of them? Even
right,
though they have their dad, and I don't mean any disrespect when I say this, but I just feel like no one's going to take care of my kids the way I am.
right, right, right.
So it just, and I kept telling him like I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave. Until this day, I don't believe that the things that happened towards the end was necessarily him. I think that it was the spirits that were on his back and within him, because the day that I left, I looked him in his eyes, and I'm telling him like, okay, I'm gone. I told the kids to get in the car, and his eyes were bloodshot red. So I don't feel like it was him. And he
Okay.
looked me dead in my face and he said, if you come back to this house, I'm going to kill you.
Mm,
And I just got chills. It like shook me to the core.
wow.
and I left. Like, we didn't take clothes. I had a baby in diapers. We didn't take anything. We just left with clothes on our back.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So you made a decision. So it was just like when he said that, you were like, okay, I ain't taking no chances here.
Mhm.
No, that was just like, it sounds like it was like the final wake up call. Like, okay.
Right.
And then it was a reminder that God told you not to do it. So it was just like it sounds like everything was just ringing, in your head. So when you decided not to go back, how did you decide to, move forward with your life? What was your thoughts of, I left everything, we didn't take nothing with us. What were your plans for rebuilding, or did you have a plan?
When I first left, I did not have a plan. I stayed with a friend for a while. And then, I have so many children and they were used to being in their own home. And I never want to bombard anybody else's house. Even though so many doors were open to us and we stayed with a few friends, we ended up staying in hotels and then I eventually got an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not have a plan. It was just, I got to go. I can't be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And his relationship with the kids at the time was still good. So the kids would go over there because the school was around the corner and they would go to school from the house and I would pick them up. So that was a good thing at the time, but I just couldn't be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So talk about yours. You talk about, when you left, you made the decision, I'm outside of the will of God, I'm leaving, you left, you got yourself together. How talk about your spiritual recovery. How did you start recovering spiritually, emotionally, and mentally? Because it took a toll on you to get to a place of being suicidal. So talk about your recovery process.
So when I left, and I was staying with friends and stuff, we were still in communication in regards to the kids and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a few times that we tried to work the marriage out. But when we tried to work it out, it just was diabolical between the two of us. If it wasn't aggression from him, it was aggression towards me. And then I graduated with a bachelor's in ministry, and there was a final blowout that day. Police were involved in all of these things, and that was like, okay, this is it. We can't work it out. There's no way, we're too toxic for each other. And I finally went and finished the paperwork with the divorce. And when I received the paperwork in the mail, I felt like a failure. I felt like I failed him. I felt my kids. I felt myself. Back then, I suffered from a lot of abandonment issues. So all of that came back. And I was really, really depressed in the apartments I stayed in. I was surrounded by some good people and I needed them in my life at the time because I was contemplating suicide after that too because of the depression and because of feeling like a failure. Like, the way I felt was I destroyed this for my kids because I couldn't be the wife that I needed to be. Nothing but the enemy playing with my mind.
Yeah.
So once I got past that and prayer and my one of my neighbors came in my room right when I was like writing suicide notes and stuff, and she came in my room and she prayed with me, and then I just started to move forward. Like every day I would just ask God, get me through today, and then he would get me through that day, and then at night I would thank him for getting me through that day. And he made, all of our needs were met, everything. So it was a slow recovery process because I had to relearn who Frances was. I had lost me as a person, as an identity. It's always about the titles, the wife, the mom, the friend, but I had to relearn Frances, and Frances really had to heal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So once that happened, then I was able to thrive and be the mom that my kids needed me to be because I feel like over time, I became a toxic parent and I was a toxic mom and I wasn't what they needed me to be. And even though I thought, okay, if I stay, they have their home, they have both parents, I thought I was doing best for them, not knowing I was really hindering them and it was bad for them because of everything that they were seeing. And certain things they started to think that was okay and it's not.
Yeah.
Even some of my older kids were like, Mom, you should have been left. So that was an eye opener in itself.
Yeah, yeah. To hear your kids say, you know, Mom, why didn't you leave? That had to be a hard blow because it was almost like the realization of what you were putting them through. With
Mm-hmm.
a whole nother level of acceptance to realize I've been putting my kids through this, you know, this whole time. And so
Right.
Lord, that was a talk about that adjustment period, you know, because as parents, you know, what we do in our life and who we are and who whether we realize, like you said, you didn't know who Francis was. So you had to get back to yourself first so that you weren't being that toxic person, even for the next relationship or even for the relationship with your kids. So talk about that adjustment period, you know, with your children and, you know, their response and what they had gone through. And now you got to deal with what you put them through. Talk about that period.
So my older two sons basically stepped up because with the last few incidences that just completely ended everything, I
Mm-hmm.
was traumatized a little bit. And my two oldest sons really stepped up to protect me, protect their brothers, to make sure that we were all okay. And my younger children that didn't really understand what was going on, you know, of course, they missed their dad and they were sad. But for I'd say for a good maybe 60 to 90 days, I mentally checked out. I
Mm-hmm.
did what I needed to do. Like I made sure they were fed, I made sure they were clean, I made sure, you know, they got to school or whatever. But I wasn't actually there. Mentally, I was just gone. And my sons stepped up and, you know, they helped a lot tremendously. And I'm truly grateful to them for that. And at the same time, I apologize to them for that because I should have been able to be what they needed in that point in time. And I wasn't. I
Yeah.
had to mentally get back to where I needed to be functionally properly to take care of them. And then, you know, I'm remarried now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a process for them to step out of that like adult place that they had to step in. Now they can actually be kids
Yeah.
and they live in a safe home and a comfortable environment. And our marriage is not perfect, but it's not toxic.
Right.
So it's an adjustment for them to step down and be a kid. So they had to endure things that they shouldn't have had to. They should have never had to step up into an adult place. They should have been able to be kids. So that's been an adjustment in itself. And some of my kids, you know, they have problem with women when it comes down to authority because they've seen a lot of fighting between me and their dad. And like I said, sometimes I started the fights and I was the aggressor and sometimes he was, but not knowing, they're looking and it's like, okay, is this how we treat women? Do we have to respect women?
Right.
These are all issues that come up when you're raising sons and
Yeah.
they see fights and arguments and disrespect going on in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so it sounds like that they're still healing. That's what it
Yes.
sounds like. That they're still healing. But you know what? I commend you for putting in the work with them to heal, because this is a good time for them to heal in their childhood so that they don't carry this, you know, into their adulthood. And once they become adults, now, you know, they're in relationships and they're toxic. So you dealing with it now is a huge help for their lives. So I commend you and I applaud you as a mother, you know, for healing,
Thank you.
you know, for going through the restoration process. Because some people, it's too painful. And so
Hmm.
when you start healing, it starts digging up those wounds. And like you said, you realize you have the abandonment issues. And so you got to go and start digging that stuff out and dealing with why were you feeling this way because you were abandoned. So I applaud you because some people, they just continue burying that pain and they continue just overlooking it and saying, "Oh, this is just how I am," you know. So I commend you for that, and I applaud you as a mother, you know, for walking that process out with your kids. Because I remember the show you did, and you brought your son on. I remember watching
Hmm.
that show, you know, and being upfront and out front about, you know, what was going on and how he was feeling and how he was dealing with it. So I applaud you for that. I really do.
Thank you. I felt that God had been putting that on my heart, and it was really important for me to bring my son on because like I said earlier, we don't pay attention to how our kids are affected in our decisions.
Right.
We don't know how they feel when separation occurs from mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
We think we know and we have an idea like, oh, okay, they're hurt or they feel this way,
Right.
but we don't really know the inside thoughts. As I said, I have 8 sons, and they have their own conversations and their own communications. And I'm not that woman to bash their dad. I don't do that because
Right.
my mom did that to me when I was younger, and I grew up hating my dad. And when I met him, I self sabotaged our relationship. Thank God I was able to repair it afterwards. But based on what she told me, I literally hated him.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't even what she said he was.
Wow.
So I don't do that to them. I allow them to see and hear for themselves, and they see, how he acts to them, and they have their own cell phones. So that's direct communication. If
Yeah.
he calls, I have no control over that. If he does not call, if he, visits with them, they see that for themselves. So they make their own opinion. I'm not that toxic mom to put hate into them based on my feelings. And I don't even have hatred towards him. I wish him the best in the world. I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like we weren't soulmates. We weren't meant to be with each other. So because of that, we brought out the worst in each other instead of the best.
Wow. Wow. That takes that takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing because we live in an era where women who are bitter, and it goes both ways. It's not just women
Mhm.
who are bitter. There's some men out there who are upset because they wanted a relationship and maybe the woman didn't. So it goes on both ways, but it's rare that you see a mother not putting that bitterness in the children. It's just rare. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's just rare. So again, I commend you for that as well because I could tell, like I said from the interview, that you weren't putting any words in his mouth. You weren't trying to conjure nothing up. It was just giving him an outlet to express how he felt. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let me welcome everybody who's coming on with us. Good evening, Janice. I see you are on. Good evening. She said, "Good evening, Miss Dupree."
Good evening.
Erlina is on watching with us. Good evening, playwright, author Erlina. I saw Venus, her comment came up, and I don't know, I can't tell who else is on. So God bless you all. Thank you for joining. Please share the video, like, share, tag the video, get someone on who needs to hear this tremendous story. So we started in talking about your book and how you married outside the will of God. And so we also talked about your journey to getting back to yourself, getting back to Francis. So let's shift into the book and how has the book impacted you? You said that it was an assignment that
Yeah.
God had given you the assignment to write the book. So after you wrote it, because I always talk about that process, especially when we write about our own lives, it's a process. We write
Hmm.
it down and then we read it and then we see it back in black and white. It's another emotion. And then when you get that book in your hands, that's a whole another emotion. So talk
Hmm.
about how did it impact you? Writing it, getting it in your hands. What did that do for Francis?
It was therapy. I had to pull some skeletons out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
I When I don't want to deal with things, I just put it in the closet, lock the key. So,
Oh,
in the process of writing the book, because one of the things that the prophet said was to be transparent and don't worry about judgment, I had to pull out a lot of things. I had to have conversations with my sons, my oldest son, to be exact, my ex husband, my current husband. I had to pray. And once I did all of that, I said, okay, I'm ready to do this because I knew there was going to be judgment. I knew things were going to come out. And even though I'm not too personal in regards to my children are concerned, I'm very personal, very transparent about me and my life and the things that I did and certain decisions that my ex husband made. So I had to deal with some things. I had to face some realities. And that was difficult. Some of the things that I did in my past was very difficult, but I understand that it was necessary because if I didn't go through it and I didn't have the test, I wouldn't have a testimony. But once I got the book in my hand, that was a wow moment because, like I said, I didn't plan on being an author or motivational speaker. It was just given to me. And my goal is just to make my father proud. So I went in 100%, flew head first, didn't, think twice about it. And to have a finished product in your hand that you've worked hard on is an amazing experience.
Yes, it is. Yes.
To really look at a book and see your face on the back of it and know I wrote this, my heart and soul went into this. It's awesome.
Mhm. It is. It's an amazing feeling, and I talk about getting my first book in my hands, and I cried like somebody had just put a newborn baby. You know that feeling as a mother,
Mhm.
put that baby on your stomach, and you're like, "Oh, my baby," and that's how I cried when I got my first book. Like it was a brand new baby. So you are so right in that regard. That it's just no feeling like it, no accomplishment like it. So when your
Mhm.
readers get your book in their hands, what are your hopes for your readers? What do you want them to have as a takeaway from your book?
My thing is to let them know that they're not the only one, because my book isn't just about marriage. It's about a
Right,
journey that I went through in my life to find myself. I made a lot of mistakes. God blessed me in a lot of ways. He gave me a lot of grace and favor. So I just want readers to know they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones that have a journey, a past, that have made mistakes. We may not have the same journey, but we might have hit the same corner.
right.
And after reading my book, I hope they understand if God can do it for me, he can do it for them, because he's not a prospective person. And
Mhm.
I've gone through a lot: homelessness, poverty, depression. I went to jail, domestic violence, suicide attempts. So if he can still use me, he can use them. And also, don't give up hope, because right when you feel like giving up, your miracle is literally right there within arm's reach.
Yes, yes, yes. That is so true. When we're ready to throw in the towel, it's like
Mhm.
you're right there. And then because you threw in the towel, you got to start all over again.
Yes.
And who wants to keep starting all over again? That's why I wrote Crossroads, because you keep coming to the same crossroad because you're going
Mhm.
in the wrong direction. So that is so true and so powerful. You talk about your 8 sons. That has got to be more than two hands full to have 8 sons. And now you got a baby girl, so she
Yeah.
makes 9. So
Hmm.
talk about the legacy that you want to leave with them. What is the legacy?
My goal is to leave them an empire. I don't want them, when they start off in the world, I started from scratch.
Yeah.
I was not taught about finances. I was not taught about, certain womanly things. I wasn't taught about paying rent and just thriving in life. So our oldest son is actually going to college in 2 years.
Mm,
So I'm teaching him cooking and cleaning, and I'm going to open him a bank account, and I take him with me to pay bills. And so I'm trying to have him ready for life. I want to have property. So, life happens. Everyone falls on hard times.
yeah.
And if that's the case, I want my children to always be able to go home, but not worry about the bill of home, but just be able to go home to rebuild, rethink, rejuvenate, start over, and go fresh.
Mm, wow. An empire. That's amazing. And you're starting right, with your son. You said in 2 years he's going off
Yes.
to college in 2 years. And
This
so,
school year, he's a sophomore in high school.
okay, so he's a sophomore. Is he planning college or is he planning something else?
His goal is to be a major league baseball player. We've
Wow.
gone on a college tour already with Arizona State. Mind you, he's only 13 years old. He
Wow.
got skipped from second to fourth. So he's
Wow.
a young high schooler,
Wow.
and he has a goal. He knows the steps that he has to take to get to that goal, and he's prepared. He's so upset right now he can't play ball, and he's like, "Mom, I just want to go to school." So he's ready.
Wow. You rarely hear that. And I'm just gonna keep it real. African American young boys, I don't hardly hear the Major League Baseball. You don't hardly hear that. You hear basketball, football, but it's
Hmm.
rare to hear he wants to do the MLB. So is he still practicing even though he can't go out to with his
He's doing a lot of exercising to get the speed up. My husband takes him sometimes and they play ball, but he's trying to stay ready. so he's not out of shape when the time does come. He has an amazing coach that's been with him for years, um, Coach Jaime Gonzalez, and he practices with him still from time to time. And he has conversation. He's like a mentor to him, basically. So he's trying to stay ready and stay prepared. And I have my second oldest son is going into eighth grade, and I'm already telling him, okay, look, you're going to be in high school, son, soon. So we need to figure out what the plan is. Because I told all of my kids, if I have to drag them, they will get across that high school stage, and they're going to go to a college, a trade school, something. They're going to be, successful. I'm not raising statistics. I tell my sons all the time, they're going to be successful men no matter what we have to do to get them there.
Wow. Are any of them twins or
No,
no
I
twins?
have two that were born in the same year, one in January and one in December, but I
Okay.
don't have any twins.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it. An empire. So, how are you mapping yourself out for the next 5 years with, plans for the first one going off to school, Major League Baseball? How are you mapping yourself for the next 5 years?
I'm taking it step by step. I'm building slowly. I just recently started to do the credit repair so we can purchase property. And then I am slowly building up my ministry,
Mm-hmm.
God's Will's ministry. And I'm trying to use that to be an inspiration and a motivation to young women and to young men. Um, as you know, on my Transparent Tuesday, I speak a lot about mental health. It's a problem that no one wants. Well, in the African American community, nobody really brings recognition to it. We're told not to, speak outside of our home, and boys are told they're not allowed to cry. All of these stigmas, and I want to bring awareness. I'm going to be taking schooling, so I'll be certified a certified mental health specialist soon, and I plan on like having groups and different things like that. I am still in school to finish up my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and then I'm going to go off to law school. So
Okay.
I'm just taking it step by step in not only building the empire for my children, but being able to help those surrounding us. Because I feel like that's what it's all about. We are here, we live, and then we die. But the thing is, what have you done to impact or to make a change while you were here?
Exactly.
And I'm teaching my children as well to help. And there's signs you can see when there's something wrong, and sometimes it just takes for a person to know that they're important and they matter. You ask them, how are they doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I announced yesterday on Transparent Tuesday through my ministry, I'd like to adopt 4 families to help them with back to school. I know with the Rona going on, we're not sure if that's going to be actually in school or at home. So I'm willing to help pay an internet bill for the month or help them get their kids personal Chromebooks. All my sons have their own personal Chromebooks, even though the schools were donating or borrowing. I wanted my children to have their own. And if their kids are actually going in school, purchasing masks or backpacks and any type of school supplies, I'm trying to sell the book. It's usually $25 a book. The launch price was 20, but I'm doing 2 for 30. Or if you just want to simply donate to the cause to help the families, then you can cash at me or PayPal me. But I'm just trying to slowly bring awareness. It's so many things going on in the world right now. I'm just trying to help in different aspects that I can.
Okay. So I'm putting it in here so I can put it on the screen. So donate to the back to school drive. What's your cash app?
I will private chat it to you right now. That
Okay.
way you can put it on.
All right. So we're going to put her cash app. Everybody has heard her. She is adopting 4 families to assist with back to school, anything from paying an internet bill to masks to school supplies. We know that, it's still uncertain what's going to happen with our children. So, some could be going back to school, some might be doing what they call hybrid, which is
Mhm.
partially home and partially going into the school, and then some are, they're telling them they're going back all together. So, we
Right.
want to be a blessing to her efforts, and everything. Venus says she will put it in. So you sent it to me. Okay, 1 second.
And then if you know any families that are in need and that could use the assistance, send me their information so that I can reach out to them. It doesn't have to be locally where I'm at. We have FedEx, we have Cash App, PayPal. There's so many ways to reach anybody in the world. So I'm not limiting it to where I'm at in the high desert or in California.
Okay, I'm putting it in here as well. So I put your PayPal. I'm going to go ahead and put up on the screen. That's the PayPal, and then I'll put the Cash App up as well. So again, she's adopting the 4 families. You can send a donation, or you also still want to get your book out there. So is
Mm-hmm.
there a special link for the book, or are they just how are they doing that for the book?
To PayPal me or Cash at me, because if they buy the book online, then it's not going to be able to help the families. So
Right.
I'm going to sell the book, 2 books for $30. If you already have the book, maybe you can bless someone else with the book. Or maybe if it's not for you, you might know somebody that might benefit from it. It's like I said, it's not just about marriage. I titled it Married Outside of God's Will because that to me stood out as a big aspect of it, but it's my life, my journey, my struggles,
Yeah.
and it may help somebody and let them know that they're not the only one. It might help them to not give up hope.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. My phone. Oh, no, what me? All right. So yes, that's a great idea. I'm personally gonna send a donation myself. So that's PayPal, and then this is her Cash App. So you can send either to the Cash App or the PayPal to help her efforts. When do the children in your area, when do they go back to school? Is it
My kids go back to school the second week of August, so I'm going to be doing this until the first Friday in August. And then that weekend, I'll be able to reach out to the families to get to it to them. I want to hopefully get the families by the end of next week. That way, I can find out exactly what their needs are and set a goal as to what I need to try to raise, or I'm even willing to come out of pocket to help them, to try to make this a little bit easier because I know COVID-19 has hit families a lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's always a blessing to be able to be a blessing. I remember times when I wasn't able to back to school shop for my kids, and people, they gave my kids hand me downs or they bought them school clothes, or I went to churches and got school supplies. So I've walked that walk before and I know how it is.
Yeah, yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit. What excites you of everything that you do, from writing your book, doing your show, helping families? What excites you the most about what you do? What do you get? What is that thing that helps you push on when it gets tough? What is that thing that pushes you?
I would have to say Transparent Tuesday. I've never been one to be able to speak in front of people, even though I want to be an attorney. That's like direct communication between me and the judge. We're in the courtroom, it's people behind you.
Right.
So to be able to sit down, be transparent, and talk about what I like to call the behind the scenes battles and the topics that no one really wants to discuss or even admit that they're going through,
Mhm.
it's a therapy for me. I sometimes don't get the topics until that day or right after I do one topic. God will bring something to me and I'm like, oh, I can't wait till Tuesday and talk about this. And then once I do it, I always call my mom. She's actually my mother-in-law, but she's my mom. And I'm like, Mom, what did you think? How did I do? I'm always so excited about it because I never thought that I could be this transparent. I never thought that I would be in a place to where I can talk about my mistakes, my past, my struggles, and help somebody else. I'm starting to see myself the way that God sees me, and it's an excitement. It's a blessing. A
Mhm.
lot of times, the topics that I talk about minister to me as I'm discussing it.
Wow, wow. So, just to pin a question, what type of law are you planning to practice?
I'm actually debating that right now because I wanted to do criminal justice reform. But now that I'm really going head on with mental health, I'm thinking I might. switch gears to that, because there's a lot of people that are mentally ill sitting in prison. And you
Mhm.
know, prison life, there's a lot of fights and
Yeah.
deaths and all of these things, and they're not getting the help that they need,
Wow.
mostly because they can't afford an attorney, or they're appointed one that's never dealt with mental health in their life. So they don't even understand the process or the struggle. And I'm a mental health survivor. So I've walked that walk. So I feel like I could really help in that. So I'm struggling right now. I'm trying to decide, but I have time because I'm finishing the bachelor's and then law school. So I have time to figure out what the specialty is going to be.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff because, I never even knew that there was a specialty for, mental health when it comes to even law. So
Hmm.
just educated me with that tonight. So I'm sure that God's going to redirect you there because the key thing that I've been hearing you say that is a concern for you is the awareness. That
Yes.
there's not a level of awareness to mental health. And again, in the African American community, like you said, we sweep it under the rug. We don't deal
Yes.
with it. We think it's not real or, it's not as serious as as it's portrayed to be, but it really is.
Hmm.
So, the suicide, it starts mentally because a person had to have been thinking about it before they actually committed the act. So,
Right. And it's not just with adults, it's with children as well.
right.
Within my home, I dealt with some of my kids being depressed or having really, really bad anger temperament issues. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's a form of mental health. So, as a mom, not only to struggle with it myself, but to deal with, see my children struggle and have to learn how to help them and to be there for them in the proper way, that is a complete eye opener and it's a different ball game.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. This is really good stuff. So let's talk about someone who might be on the fence about, writing their book or getting it done, or they're kind of straggling along with that thought process. Should I do it? Should I not? I don't want people in my business, the whole nine yards with that. So, what words of advice would you give someone who has not completed their book yet?
That your story, if it's a memoir, your story is important. What you went through not for yourself, but for somebody else.
Right.
So don't think of it as you. Think of it as how far are you willing to go to save a soul or to help the next person? How far are you willing to go for that person that's in their dark place right now and they're ready to give up to save them so that they don't, to give them the inspiration that they need to keep going?
Wow, that's good stuff. So y'all heard it here. I do want to address one of the comments. Somebody said when you were talking about your son helping him with graduation, somebody said life skills is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give to their child, and I
Hmm.
agree with that because a lot of parents they sit back waiting for the school system to do everything, and there's no work being done at home. I think that's a lot of why a lot of parents have struggled through this whole COVID thing because they're not doing anything with their kids at home. And so they're putting all the weight on the school to do everything and not teaching their child anything. And a few years back, probably around about 2013, there was a young lady I was mentoring at the time, and when she had just graduated at that particular school year, and she didn't know anything about writing a check. She didn't know anything about credit, budgeting, looking for
Hmm.
a job, filling out a job application. She didn't know nothing about nothing. And part of me wanted to blame the schools, like why aren't the schools teaching this? But parents have a responsibility, to teach their
Yeah.
children these life skills. I just think about if I had been prepared for life just a little bit different when I was
Hmm.
in high school, how much further I would be now, and how much more of an appreciation I would have had for getting credit, building credit, protecting it. Maybe I would have had a greater appreciation if it had been taught to me.
Right.
So
I
I,
started completely from ground zero. I didn't know nothing.
yeah,
I I was just saying yesterday on Transparent Tuesday, 7 times out of 10 you see my hair done because I can't put it in a ponytail. I don't know how it's crooked. It's not right. I don't know anything about the baby hairs. I said, thank God I know how to braid because I keep my daughter's hair braided.
Yeah.
But it's just things that I was not taught. You know, I grew up as a foster kid. So being shuffled around in the system, I was not taught a lot of things. So my things is when my children leave this house, they're going to be prepared for
Right.
no matter what it is, you know, and by me dominantly having sons, I don't want them to depend on a woman. I want them to
Right.
complement a woman.
Right.
So I try to teach them the things inside of the house. My husband is teaching them the man things. Because, you know, a lot of times women, oh, I can raise my son by myself. Yeah, you can do that, but you're not a man,
Right.
especially if you have African American sons with everything that's going on. You don't know how to be a black man in this society, and that's not something that you can teach them. You can
That's
teach them values, you can teach them respect, but how to be a man, which is something you've never been, you can't do that. I can teach my daughter how to be a woman because I'm a woman. My husband can't teach her that. He can
right.
teach her how men are supposed to treat her, how she should be acting around men, but to actually be a woman, that's out of his scope, just like to be a man is out of my scope.
Yeah, that's a good point. I love that point because, especially, for you having 8 sons, that's a great
Mhm.
point to make that you cannot teach them how to be a man. You can teach
No.
them values, but you
Hmm.
never sat in that seat. And so, because you never sat in that seat, you can't teach them, what it feels like. And let's just keep the conversation real. What it feels
Hmm.
like to be stopped by the police in the middle of the night. You know,
Yeah.
you can't give them that up and up. You can
Mm-mm.
partially as a black woman, but not as a black man. And
Nope.
it's a totally different level of pressure or expectation that's put on a
Hmm.
black man versus a black woman.
Yes.
So you're saying an excellent point. I absolutely hate when mothers, especially when Father's Day comes. I see it a lot less here lately, but it used to be a time when Father's Day would come, women would say, everybody should be wishing me a happy Father's Day. No, they should.
Yes.
No, they should
Mm.
not, because you are not a man, and you were not
Right.
created as a man. And that's a
That's
whole
true.
other conversation we can get into on another day. But you invite, and you talked about opening those doors earlier, but you just invite masculinity onto yourself as a woman by
Hmm.
saying I should be appreciated as a man. You are not a man, so now
You
you're
know,
on a role that you can't even handle because you were not
yep.
created to handle it.
In the Bible, it says Eve was made as the helpmate.
Right?
She
Exactly.
wasn't the husband. She wasn't the overseer of the house. I mean, sometimes as women, we have to be that.
Right.
But when you're married and you don't have to be,
Right.
and this is something that I had to learn in my current marriage. I have a friend. She's my Bible thumper. I love her, but sometimes when she calls me, I'm like, oh, I don't want to answer the phone. But every advice that she gives me is nothing but biblical. She's actually my accountability, and I've been learning the role as a wife as I should be. I'm the helpmate, the helpmate.
Right.
I don't run the house. I don't set down the laws and the rules. And, you know, I had to learn that. And it was a difficult transition for me. But the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders, that's why a lot of women have high blood pressure and they're stressed and depression and all of these things because they're in a role that we were not made to be in.
That's good. That's good. And you're absolutely right. You said it perfectly. When you got the right man, the weight lifted. That's the key words, ladies. Because you can't just get a man. Come on, somebody hear me. You can't just get a man, because then you will be taking on even more weight, be more stressed and more depressed because you done took on
Mhm.
more weight of a whole other person who should be taking the weight off of you. So those are good words. And again, I know I said this earlier, but I commend you again for taking the brakes off, because as a strong black woman, that's hard for us to do because,
Yeah.
we go back to slavery. We were made to take care of the family because the husband was stripped away and the father was
Hmm.
stripped away. So you took on all this responsibility for so many years, and then for somebody to come in and say, take a step back, sit down, you're like, wait, hold up. I've been
Right.
doing this for all this time. You want me to just chill?
Yes.
Like that's not an easy transition.
It's not. And, you know, people around you, if they're not aligned right with God, a lot of people don't understand my marriage. Like I've had people tell me, oh, well, he couldn't tell me this and he couldn't tell me that, because when it came down to finances, I prayed, for the right husband, the right overseer, and I have him, and he's like, we're going to save. And I was mad because I wanted him to give me money. And I was so upset. And my friend that I was talking about my accountability, she's like, Francis, you have a man that is trying to save. You went from being in a relationship to where you were being evicted, you didn't have money, bills was getting cut off, to where now rent's paid, you're not working, you're at home with your daughter, and you're upset because he wants you to save. And I had to take a step back, like, wait, hold on, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. And it's about perspective. She helped you put it into a different perspective to
Mm-hmm.
make you say, okay, wait, okay, this ain't as bad as what I was dealing with
Mm-hmm.
before. So it give you a totally different outlook. Like, okay, let me take a couple more steps back, and because he's right. And when you get the right one, they're gonna talk the right talk. And they're gonna not
Yeah.
just talk it, they're gonna walk it, and you're going to see the evidence of it, and the blessings will flow when we have
Yes.
that divine order in our lives. The blessings have to flow because that's the order that God created. He created
I'm
that.
so in awe of God, of the financial blessings, the blessings with my children, the relationship that they have with my husband, how he is with them. From day one, when he came, before we even got married, he's like, these are my kids. And, things happen, and he's like, they're my kids. I don't care. That's the protectiveness that he has over them. And I love it. I'm so grateful. And just all the doors that are opening for our family, I'm just in awe, because I never thought, like, wow, this is really how my life could be. I finally understand when God says he wants us to live life more abundantly.
Yes, 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 yes. This is good stuff. Such an awesome turnaround your life has taken, and we done took you from
Mhm.
A to Z in all in an hour. Awesome turnaround from I totally disobeyed God, I opened all these doors, to now the God send you your true husband, your true Boaz, so we say, send him
Mhm.
to you, and to take on 8 boys. That's phenomenal. I applaud. I should have been sending him a Father's Day card doing that, because that speaks volumes to his character. Not
Yes.
just to say, he's gonna come in the home and just be a provider, because some people think that just paying the bills is enough. But it's
Mm-mm.
more to it than that. It's just
Mhm.
so much more. So I commend him as well. And I just thank God for your life, how God has been blessing you and increasing you and just changing things around. I just thank God for your life and how he
Thank
has
you.
increased you. So what are some of the final words that you have for our viewers tonight? What would you like to share? Let me see if I missed any comments. A couple people said they'd love to donate, so we got the donation up on their Cash App, and then let me put your PayPal back up as well. But a couple people said that they like to donate, so just some good
Thank
comments.
you so much. I truly appreciate that. And like I said, if you guys know of families that can help, that need the help, you can find me on Facebook, Francis Dupree, and reach out. The PayPal is my email. Send me an email with their information. That way I can reach out to them. My final thoughts is, don't be ashamed of your past or your mistakes or your struggles. Everything that you went through is necessary. I know people are very judgmental, but you have to think, without a test, there's no testimony. If you're perfect and your life is perfect, where is there room for God? Where is there room for you to share his greatness and his favor so you can win another soul? Because if God can do it for you, he's not a perspective of person. He can do it for another person too.
That's right. That's good stuff. Thank you so much for stopping by. Excuse me. Thank you so much for stopping by the Working Wednesdays broadcast. We
Thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having me.
Absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media, if you have a website, where they can get your
Oh,
book.
yes, I will put that in the private chat so you can post it. But I'm on Facebook. Like I said, it's Francis Dupree.
Mhm.
On Instagram, it's MRS9 the hard way. Um, Twitter is Ms. Lady Dupree. My website is www.gods-will-ministries.com. I'm going to private message that to you.
I can copy and paste. That'd be great.
That way you can post it so
Okay. And while
people.
she's putting that in for me, I want to thank everybody who has joined us this far on the broadcast. Do me a favor, we can still share the video, still like it, still get somebody on to catch the replay. This video will be available on our YouTube channel. So check us out on YouTube, IBG Publications. You see the logo up on the screen. It's going to look the same across every platform that we are on. So we want to thank our guest tonight.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Author Frances Dupree. She is the author of the book Marrying Outside of God's Will. And she left me everything in the chat. So let me go ahead and put her Instagram up first. So follow her on Instagram. Don't go follow and then unfollow. You know, people like to do that. Here is her website. And we got her website just came up as good as well. Venus said this was real good. Thank you, Venus, for
Thank you.
And your feedback. And then her Facebook, which is Frances Dupree. And then her Facebook, which is Frances Dupree. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and sign you off, Frances. We appreciate you for the Working Wednesdays broadcast. We thank you for your transparency from Tuesday over to Wednesday. So you have a channel, too, on YouTube, right? Don't you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, it's actually Frances Dupree is the YouTube name, and that's where you can catch my Transparent Tuesday. As I always say, don't miss a topic because you never know which one will transform your life. I discuss all the behind the scenes battle, the ugliness that no one wants to talk about because it matters, you matter, and what you're going through matters.
All right, so I got everything down. Great show. Tam said great show. Don't forget to check out her YouTube channel and all that good stuff. So thank you for joining us tonight. God bless you. And
God
have
bless
a
you.
wonderful evening.
You too. Bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining tonight for Working Wednesdays. It has been a phenomenal show. If you did not catch it all the way through, go ahead and catch the replay. If you're listening to the replay, please put in #replay so I know you are following us all the way through to the end. We appreciate your presence. You can find this video on our YouTube channel. You can visit us on the web, www.ibgpublications.com. I am your host, Audra V. Hurd. I am so grateful for you keeping coming on with us tonight, liking the video, sharing it so we can get people hearing these positive messages, y'all. We are changing lives. We are helping people, and we are giving people a different perspective through books and business. So thank you so much for joining. So I want to end the night with prayer. I was advised by my private advisor to start praying at the end of the show. And so that's what I'm going to do, just to sign us off for the night and say good night to everybody and just wish you a good night. So Father, in Jesus' name, God, we just honor who you are through this broadcast, Lord. We give you glory and honor and praise for our guest tonight, God, that you have delivered her. You have set her free, God, from so much bondage, God. So many things, God, that you have freed her from. And so we're grateful for her life tonight, God. We are thankful that she came and shared her testimony. And God, we know that your word says that the testimony of Jesus Christ is a spirit of prophecy. So we thank you tonight, God, that she has prophesied into someone's life through what she has been through, to let them know that there's hope, God, that you are a restorer of life, that you are Jehovah Rapha, you are the healer, God. You are the Jehovah Jireh, you are provider, God. You are Jehovah Nisi. We raise you up in victory, oh God. And so, Father, we honor your presence through this broadcast. God bless IBG Publications tremendously. God bless every person that has watched tonight. who has stayed on, who has listened, and who has been consistent in supporting this show. God, give them an increase of time for the time they invest watching the show, God. And we thank you that we will be back next week with more testimony, more honor, and praise for you for what you are doing in the lives of your people. And God, we just offer Jesus Christ to whomever may be listening and is not saved. We offer Jesus Christ to you. He is through him we give forgiveness of sin. Through him we are healed. Through the stripes of Jesus Christ we are healed, set free, and delivered. So we thank you, God, for what you are doing in my life and in the lives of your people, even in the midst of this pandemic, God. Even in the midst of uncertain times, God. Not knowing, God. Father, even those who are grieving family members, God, we pray that you will comfort and heal their hearts, God. There be no more tragedy, God. No more suicides, God. We come against suicidal thoughts, God. Suicidal attempts, God. And Father, we thank you that people will find their purpose in life. They will know why they live, why they breathe, why you have them alive, God. That you would give them the meaning for why they still exist, Father. We honor who you are through this broadcast, and this is your platform, God. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. God bless you all. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next week. Same day, same time, working Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. God bless you.